Okay. Good morning, Philippines. This is Sumant Timsina. So this is your day 2, but it's still a module 1. And we're going to cover the overview of future learning today. And our facilitators are Sakil, Malik, and Amy. So before I go into introducing Shakil and Amy, I'm going to go over some house rules. So if you get dropped off for some reason, please use the same link and come back in, and one of us will let you come in. And with that, I'm hoping that I haven't seen in last 2 hours, but I hope everyone had opportunity to complete the pre-assessment. About 2 hours ago, there were 45 pre-assessments were completed, just few were left. And also, I hope everyone had opportunity to follow the email and the chat messages to join the WhatsApp group. From today on, that WhatsApp group is going to be very important for all of you from learning perspective. And third one is I've shared a LinkedIn group that we have. And during the program, we will be posting a number of things there. So it will be easy if you have a LinkedIn account, if you can join that group. Number 4, as Mr. Shakil has announced, 1 book a day. So I've shared the first book via email, and we have reduced the size of the book because original book is very big, and sometime with poor internet, it could take forever to download. So now it should be easy for you to download locally in your computer and read it at your leisure, with your interest. Those are very good books, as Mr. Malik has told you yesterday. So with that, we will every day send you reminder in the WhatsApp groups. We're keeping the same Zoom link, we're not changing, so that you don't have to remember, you don't have to search, just know where it is. So it makes it easier. You have the schedule. There is no change in schedule, I believe, unless Maricel says something else. But right now, we have most of the sessions are scheduled on your Tuesday and Thursdays. Only next week, instead of Tuesday, we have it on Monday. So after the session 2, module 2, we will give you enough reminders in WhatsApp, email, so that you won't miss it and you will not forget it. 85% is the rule for completion of the program to earn the certificates. And we will keep track of that through your signing in information here. We'll get the screenshot, and we have a method how to track it, and we will share that with RTI officials, and certificates will be issued to everyone. So with that, I think I killed enough time to have most of the people online. So I'm just going to go quickly to introduce our facilitators and our colleagues today. I'm not going to read the bio. It's on the PDF. It's on the PowerPoint. I have shared a Google Drive with all of you. If you don't have access to Google Drive, please request and we'll grant the access. And that will give you access to every single day's PowerPoint. So you will have it there after the class is completed. And you can see the bio of our presenters. So Shakil is my wonderful colleague. He is a senior consultant with us, and he does consulting with lots of other companies around. And he is a great advocate of universal design for learning. And plus 20 plus years, he has worked with a number of countries and a number of donor agencies around the world with USAID and now with World Bank and a number of other foundations. And Shakil has earned Masters in International Education from University of Maryland in United States. And he is very familiar with Philippines education landscape. So hopefully it will be a really good exchange between both of you. And our next facilitator is Amy. Our colleague Amy brings a long experience of 35 years. And I cannot thank Amy enough for waking up at 2 a.m. in Tanzania for these programs. And she and Shakil, they put this entire curriculum together for Philippines. So kudos to both of you and big hands from my side. Thank you, Amy, for leading this effort. And with Amy and Sakil, we also have two of my colleagues. You will see them online, Elizabeth and Amaka. Amaka is the project manager and Elizabeth is a program manager. Today I sent you the email, but from tomorrow, most of the emails you're going to get from Elizabeth about a program, about accessing books and articles and whatnot. So without further delay, I will turn microphone to Amy and Sakil. So Sakil and Amy, you take it from here.
Good morning. Thank you so much, Suman, for introducing us. Very generous and very kind of all of you. First of all, very big good morning to you all, sunshine in Manila. I hope the weather is nice, not too hot for you all, although I hear that it's very humid this time of the year. But I'm sure I always miss the coconut water from Manila streets. That always keeps me cool. I remember my good days in Manila. With that, I just want to check the audio from Amy. Amy, can you hear me?
I'm able to hear you. Am I coming through?
Absolutely, fantastic. So
Great.
I think that the first order of business is that we already did kind of a little bit of introduction. I'm sharing my screen. I hope all of you can see and listen to us properly. If you cannot, please let us know, and then we will definitely see that if we can make sure that everything is working. So I'm also trying to see if I can see the chat board here so that everybody can I can see the chats. So we Suman already introduced us, both of us, and the program. We did a little bit of overview yesterday, and I'm gonna be talking about
Sakil,
yes.
sorry. You may want to go to full screen on your PowerPoint. It's quite small and we're seeing your application.
All right, so let's see. Can you see now?
Yes, that's perfect.
All right. So I think that Suman already did. I'm seeing someone already did our presentation. So the expectation of today's session. So Amy, do you want me to go over this?
I can take care of it if you want me to.
Go ahead, please.
Okay, so this is our opening session. It's going to be an overview. So we're grappling with a couple of things today. One, we want you to get used to the process that we're using. We're going to be working in various small groups throughout every session. So we'll be spending some time today kind of getting you oriented to the small group process as well. And the level of interactive discussion that we would like to have. Sakil and I don't do lecture. We just don't. It's not a productive learning methodology. And we want to make sure that you're actively engaged. And so when we first meet with a group, it's a little bit of a start and stop that first day to make sure everybody is getting comfortable. We're going to take our time this morning as well. So part of our process today is to get you used to the process. But we do have session expectations in terms of your understanding and what you're able to prepare to do. So take a look at the screen, please. As I said, it's overview. So we're going to focus on the broad concept of futures learning and futures learning spaces today. This is a very conceptual set of work this morning. We're not yet reaching the practical. We'll be getting more and more practical as each session goes on. We just want you to get a handle on when we talk about futures thinking and futures planning, what are we really talking about? And why is it going to be of value to you? We'll also be doing a bit of a dig into the different pieces of work that'll be coming up over the following 5 sessions. You'll recall yesterday, I talked about the learning blocks, that we will have a learning block for new content. Our new content today is this deepening understanding section. And then we will have a block of learning for futures planning. And so today we're going to start into the futures planning process. Each session we will add on to that. So you'll be actually doing futures planning in small groups during this session today, focused on defining your team persona. Who are you as a team? And then what are your areas of concern, your focal concern? What's of most importance to you as a team? And then what's your goal for the futures planning work that you'll be doing? So we're going to take it slow this morning and talk you through all the steps, get a basic foundation laid, and start into our planning process very first thing. Sakil?
Yes, Amy, thank you. So I'm going into the first section today, deepening understanding of future learning.
Okay, thank you, Sakil.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So this is our first section of new content. It's our overview piece on futures thinking. So before we can get into futures learning specific to education, we really want to look at what do we mean when we say futures thinking. So take a look at what's on the screen, do a little skim and scan, and look for the green text for me this morning. The information here mostly comes from OECD, including a definition of futures thinking. It's really about taking the idea of informed reflection and looking toward the future and putting a methodology around it, something that adds some structure and supports us in, as we look to the future, thinking systematically about how to prepare for what is really, in some cases, unknown. So it's about having an informed reflection. How can we look around us at the things that influence our work? How can we understand more about the directions they may go in the future? And how can we use that to reflect on not only what we're doing today, but what we may anticipate having to do tomorrow and in the tomorrows that follow that, so that we can anticipate not everything that will happen, but some things that will be coming at us and different ways in which we might prepare for those. To be informed about our future and to be able to reflect on and plan for that, we have to learn different ways of being. A lot of times, particularly when we're caught in a system such as education, where there are a lot of structures, a lot of requirements, a lot of guiding documents, a lot of kind of boxes we have to tick in terms of our ability to do our job properly. We've also got to learn to be flexible in that work. And flexibility, for those of us who can sometimes be met with an overwhelming set of tasks to do, can sometimes be difficult. But I want you to take a look at bullet 3 in terms of flexibility. And I'd like to open, Sakil, let's open either chat room or audio for people to discuss what do they think it means to be flexible in the work that they do.
I think chatbot is okay. If anyone want to reflect and give your own comment, I think someone has a microphone on. Anyway, so yes, if you can use the chatbot, think for a minute and reflect on the chatbot about what you feel, what you think about when you think about flexibility in your own work environment. And remember, all opinions are accounted for. So no judgment on your opinion. Please go ahead and respond on your chat board.
Yeah, the mantra here is no judgment and no fear.
Yes. Flexibility, that's the word that we are looking for, and you're thinking on flexibility.
Yeah, let me frame the question one more time. So in your own work, what do you find are the ways that you're required to be flexible in your work, and what does that look like?
I think responses started to come, Amy. I'm reading some of them. Adaptability to situations, open to change. Flexibility means being able to adapt to changes, to current situation, adjust to different circumstances at work, can adapt. Resilience.
Yeah, I think resilience is really critical.
Right.
You know, we do know flexibility is kind of adaptability, and I think that it's good we're getting those responses. Resilience adds on another factor, and that brings in this issue of being able to be responsive. So when
Right.
we talk about being able to be responsive, what we're really looking at is that combination of adaptability and resilience. To be resilient means to bounce back in the face of a challenge, and that suggests that we are able to move forward. Nothing becomes a barrier to us, but we can see the challenge in front of us and we can respond in ways that help us to move forward.
Excellent.
To embrace change is also very interesting. So we're seeing specific examples now as well.
Right.
Can you, Sakil, read during the pandemic? Can you read that for us, please?
Yeah, a couple of them are coming more. Can adjust to any situation, agility to adapt to change, is exploring innovative ways to be more adaptable, being able to quickly adapt to new circumstances as they arise, embrace changes. During the pandemic, we needed to change the manner of providing services to our clients, capacity to adjust and adapt to various perplexing situations, flexible in terms of accomplishing some of school work depending on the present situation. In the area of health and nutrition to support learners' readiness, we need to adjust our programs, projects depending on the conditions surrounding education and direction and priorities of the government. Being able to adapt in every unique situation to navigate and overcome unanticipated obstacles. Being open and discern and act decisively.
Okay, can we pause there, because I think that issue of discernment and decisiveness, that's also a critical piece. Each comment digs down deeper into this process to discern what the real issue is. And this is very critical, because a lot of times when we're caught in a situation where something new is coming at us that we didn't anticipate, we look to that as the problem. And in many cases, it's not the problem, it's only a symptom of the problem. So the ability to discern what the real issues are, get down underneath the face of the issue that's coming at us, and to act decisively. This is without fear. It really requires us to take a look at bullet 4. We have to be informed. We have to be able to predict, and we have to work within our vision of the future. So if we think about a crisis that may hit, and we've all had a major crisis in the last several years all over the world, the first reaction may be to panic. The second reaction may be to feel helpless, but we have to put those aside. We have to think about what we know, what we have already been through in our lives, put those pieces of skills together within our vision. And the vision is critical. And this gets to what we're working on in this series, to move us toward, to move you as regional teams toward a shared vision for what the future could potentially look like, different scenarios for the future. It could look this way, it could look that way, it could look this third way. And so how do we prepare ourselves now? And how do we continue to prepare ourselves slowly for those potential future scenarios? So we're getting very clearly at, through the comments coming, people's understanding of flexibility. Now, I want to pose a question for people to think about. You carry very many different roles in your work, everything from a regional director all the way down to the localized classroom teacher who's dealing with children every day. How do we make sure that everyone in our scope of work, that everyone in our sphere of influence is able to be flexible and is able to share that future vision? So I'll pose it in a different way, and then I would love to see some responses. Sakil, we might want to get people to raise hands and try some audio if that's possible. If we think about this idea of shared future vision and how to move toward it and prepare for it, how do we make sure that every actor, every stakeholder, teachers, leaders, community members, our environment, our resources, everything we need is in place to prepare for an unpredictable future that in many ways we know will look totally different than it does now?
So some responses started to come. I'm going to read a couple of them, Amy. By providing enablers for them to achieve the goals. First is informing them. The more informed people are, the more they get to respond well to task or situation.
Yeah, we have to really have transparent communication and good information for all. We have to learn how to motivate people toward the vision. We have to learn how to support them in the bumps along the road. And to really make sure that as a community, we know what's happening at every level of the system. Instead of being compartmentalized in our own daily tasks, we have to get those tasks done while we still look toward the larger vision of the future. Any other responses, or anyone who wants to raise a hand and speak using audio?
Couple of them more coming. Involve them in every step of the way. Create platforms for discussions at several levels of governance involving all stakeholders, including the parents, learners, and the community. There should be a venue where different stakeholders can share and contribute. By clearly communicating the situation and motivate them to make action, have a good communication plan. As a leader, this one we need to create a culture of openness. We need to be open to questions. Everyone must be informed of the vision and each must be motivated to focus on the goal. Second is to provide support to people so they can get to do the task effectively, scaffolding to achieve task. There is more, sharing them our vision, open communication can have a great impact of our stakeholders to that we can involve them for the objective we have. Communicate, collaborate with education stakeholders, plan together.
Okay, well, and sharing your vision with them is a great comment, because I think I want to also push it even further and say we have to co-create that vision. Everybody who's a stakeholder has to buy the vision, has to own it. And to be a part of that, to own it and to buy it and use it, they have to be a part of developing that vision. So what we're really doing in these sessions here is we're creating prototypes. One, you're learning more about futures thinking. Two, learning to work together as a team around that idea. But also three, creating prototypes or scenarios of future potential visions so that you can take this back and continue to work forward on this with those stakeholders who are in your sphere of work. So you're really only at, as you'll recall from yesterday's session, you're only at phase 2. And as you move into phase 3 and into phase 4, you will not only make those visions more practical, link them to things like your annual or your 3-year improvement plans, but you'll also engage the other stakeholders in your local sphere of work to make sure it's a shared vision developed by all. Any other comments, Sakil, you'd like to point out before we move forward?
Yeah, I think one last one I'm going to read. By motivating people to work and allow them to maximize their full potential by looking at their strengths and capacity to help, keeping the organization well informed at all times.
Excellent. So it's that issue, that kind of pulls everything together that people have been saying. The issue of communication, motivation, skills, and space. Space is an interesting thing because it's a tricky balance in education institutions and education agencies to balance that space for flexibility with the requirements that we have for daily tasks and activities. Okay, Sakil, I think we can move. Go ahead.
Sorry, there was one hand raised. I am asking the person to open your mic and speak if you want to speak.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning. Go ahead.
Yes, yeah, I totally agree with all the comments as well, and with our dear speaker. Truly, we really have to have a shared vision because that will give us more space to connect and to be concerned with all the issues that we are facing as educational institutions. And I, I'm also thinking that uh, we really have to have a whole governance and organization approach as part of our uh, mechanism if we really want to improve our education system right now. That would be all. Thank
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you so much. Amy?
Yeah, I love that idea of whole governance and shared collaborative work. We're talking right now at a very conceptual level. And I know it has to be in the back of your minds because it's in mine. How do we maintain the practical work? How do we meet the needs of every child who comes into a classroom every day? Well, we also work at this kind of mentally conceptual level to remember what our long-term goals are. And that's really one of the great challenges of people who work in education, particularly today. How do we take care of daily tasks? How do we take care of one another and our kids while we continue to think in a visionary way? Because we have to think in a visionary way. The world is changing at such a rapid rate. So many things are coming at us that we anticipated in some case, but didn't anticipate in others, that it's going to become more and more challenging. And if we do not take hands with one another, we will fail. And if we do not count on each other to work as hard as each of us are working, we won't succeed to the level that we need to and we have to in order to make sure our children are ready for the future that's coming toward them. Thank you for the comment. That was really helpful and useful. So let's move, Sakil, to the next slide because it's real interesting to me. We've been talking so big. Let's take it down to a little practical graphic. I want you to take just a minute to look at this slide, please. There's three things really that sit at the core of this, things we have to know and understand.
Did we lose Amy, Sakil?
No, I think she's still here.
Nope. I'm just pausing, Suman.
Okay.
I don't like to read to people, and I do want to give them time to take a look at what's there. So you will hear me go quiet occasionally. Okay, so we've got three kind of principles here, three things that sit at the core of futures thinking. And I'd like to ask for raised hands for any participant who wants to comment on any one of these three. The future is not predictable. It's a very tiny, simple graphic there, but I think it's very interesting, particularly for those who work at the primary or elementary school level. The future is not predetermined, and it can be influenced by individual choices. Anyone want to give us a practical example from any one of these three, something you've done in your life or work, something you've encountered that has taught you this lesson or these principles?
Anyone want to speak? Please raise hand and you can share your mic. I think two people raised their hand. I'm trying to see who they are. Cristito, Echo? Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Good morning. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would like to share something about the first item here about the future is not predictable. Yeah, it means the future is where there is uncertainty in the future, and the best example of this is when we are struck by COVID-19 pandemic. We have we have actually the entire world have not thought of this eventuality, and therefore it means that with the current trends that we are in, we have to make sure that the leaders, school leaders, must have the skill and competency on how to predict the future, and meaning the skill of thinking what will be the future looks like and what might be happening in the near future, like 10 years, 20 years from now. So that's my my understanding about the future is not predictable, and therefore as a school leader we have to have that skill and competency on how to predict the future. Thank you.
Well, and
Thank
it's
you.
that issue of might. I heard you use the word might, how it might look. You know, we can't really predict, but we have to be able to say there are different kinds of scenarios and issues we might face. I know in Philippines, you face regular natural disasters that come at you. In some ways, you might be able to say that's likely to happen. So we might know this is coming, and how do we prepare to deal with that? I know as educators in Philippines, you have been through those crises enough that you now have some experience and some knowledge about how do we respond in those kinds of situations. But so I want us to, you know, not be afraid and not to prepare for the worst, but to always look at the mights. This could happen. How do we respond if this happens? It's happened in the past. It could happen again. It's not what we call a one-off. I think also beyond that, we have to look more broadly at larger issues in the world. Our environment, the changes in the environment, we've talked about that. Potential for medical emergency, global pandemic, we've talked about that. But there's other kinds of things in your local context, in your national context, and in the global context that could really influence how it is you're supposed to do your work. So yes, it's not predictable, but we have to be able to predict the possibilities that could be coming at us. Sakil, we had another person raising hand to speak.
Yes, Mr. Ebenezer Beloy.
Yes, good morning.
Go ahead. Good morning.
I'm Ebenezer Bello from Quezon City, Philippines. I really love this illustration, and I just want to highlight the future can be influenced by individual choices. We are really into this world with traditional man-made constructs to begin with, and I think that is one that is limiting us and controlling us to really make informed choices and better choices for the future of our learners. Although we agree that the future is uncertain, but if we will really uh, have this passion to create mechanisms, co-create mechanisms, so that we can have somehow a pandemic and disaster-proof education for the sake of our learners. That would be all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Excellent. I think there is one more, Amy. Let's listen to that one and then we go. I think there are 6 hands raised. So I don't know how many you want to get. Maria?
I would like to hear from Sakil. I'd like to hear from everyone.
All right, great. So Maria, go ahead.
This is Marie. I just would like to go say that this particular idea runs in complete contradiction to some of the things that we believe in culturally, because there are a lot of Filipinos who actually believe in the idea of the hands of God is actually there, and there's really faith and all that. In some ways, I'm kind of thinking that there's when you look at this, even in my own home, I usually have a very, shall we say, firm discussion with my husband concerning this, because I believe in this, but my husband does not. But at the back of my mind, you have to be able to go and learn how to be able to convince people that when you do something and you think you can no longer do anything about the situation, they would go and say, okay, I give up. I leave this in God's hand, which is, I think, a little bit frustrating for some individuals who are really working so hard to be able to move forward. That's why I'm pointing this out, because at the back of our mind was this: Filipinos are changing their way of thinking, but this has been ingrained in us culturally for most of us, that was this: we act on things, yeah, but if God would go and say this is what it is, then we cannot really do anything about that. So it's something about faith, and I was this has to be balanced out by facts, by situations, and by looking at how things are, so that you can see that there are things that we really can do as human beings in this world, and we are the ones doing things for ourselves, and this is not God's path, or this is not the hands of God, because all of these things actually happen because there's a reason why. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
That's an interesting point of view, and I would venture to say, when we start talking about God in sessions, we want to be very careful. But I would venture to say that that's a problem that people face around the world. I mean, we can look at our international news and we can look at different situations around the world, and we see that there as well. But I would challenge us to think about the idea when we discuss this issue of giving up or feeling helpless, that God has given us hands, minds, and community, and He would expect us to use them. So that's just a particular point of view. Other people who want to speak, please.
Yeah, Maria Corazon Domlau.
Good morning.
Good
Good morning,
morning. Go ahead.
mentors and colleagues. I am Dr. Maria Corazon Dumlao. We are at the central office and we are tasked to come up with policies and guidelines on health and nutrition to support learner readiness. In the principles of future thinking, particularly on the future is not predetermined and the future can be influenced by individual choices. We in the health sector supporting education are into evidence-based interventions, and we are aware that the behaviors of individuals are determined or are shaped by the interaction between the biological structure and the interplay between the micro level environment and macro level environment, so that when we come up with interventions to influence behavior, we need to come up with strategies that would address the different levels influencing the values, attitudes, thus the behavior of individuals. In the current situation now, we are into a pandemic, and it has changed our programs and project strategies, especially, for example, school-based feeding. Before, it's providing hot meals inside the classroom, but we had to change into dry ration, and it has to be distributed into the homes. So we need a lot of leadership. We need a lot of decisions, prioritizing on how we can provide and continue to sustain the gains for supporting learner readiness. And one of that is still continuing health and nutrition service delivery provision, and collaborating with various stakeholders in government to ensure that we will still look at the quality of the learner that we have. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm going to read one of them, Amy. Somebody saying, though one can be a visionary leader by observing, studying, and conducting research, we cannot predict it. If it is Nokia, might still be #1 brand in terms of mobile devices. So yeah, of course, Nokia is no longer the #1 in devices. That's one. But also, I think there is one other hand up here, Rosalina Villaneza.
Yes, good morning. I am Rosalina Villanesa from DepEd Central Office, Bureau of Learning Delivery, Teaching and Learning Division. I believe that, future is not predictable, future is not predetermined. but we make our own future. Why is it not predictable? Because we have influence from other factors like the environment and the people around us who also build their own future. But there are non-negotiables. We can determine our futures by preparing ourselves. Like in the case of the Department of Education, we can predict the future of the department if we provide our learners with the basic needs. Like, for example, reading. Reading is everything in education. When the learners learn how to read, they will survive for the rest of their lives. And if they are provided with basic technology, they will be able to survive in the rest of those technologies because they already have the basics. So the challenge for us, if we really would want to influence the future, we really need to provide our learners with the basic and the non-negotiables. The problem in the department is really, with our learners, is really on the reading, the basic literacy and numeracy. But the bottom line is that, are we really doing the same thing? We might not be singing the same tune. That's why we are not hitting our targets. Because at some point, we welcome all those interventions that are not even research-based. So I think we even if it's not predictable, but we can predetermine what do we need and what preparations we should make to be able to reach our goal. And I think that's very important. That I think is one of the like conditioning of the minds or habits of the minds that we have to develop between and among us as educators, so that we will be, even if we travel in different ways, but we are hitting the same goal. Because there's so many ways to kill a hen, a cat or a dog. But if we are set with the foundation, if we believe that these are the foundational skills that are needed by our learners to be able to reach that goal, then those are non-negotiables, I suppose. We should not negotiate on that, and we should stick to that. I'm very much with early literacy and numeracy, and at some point I am not happy with what is happening. So
it's all right. It's okay.
So thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. Okay.
Thank you so
much.
Well, and
I want to thank Rosalina for kind of bringing us back to the ground level. And see, that's what we will have to do throughout these sessions, is think big and target small. We do have to have long-term goals, but Rosalina's correct. There are some basic things that kids need, and our prior speaker as well. They need proper nutrition. They need their brains to be fed so that they're capable of learning, and then they need the basic skills they need for survival in life. Literacy, numeracy, social emotional development skills, the ability to collaborate with one another, to communicate effectively, and critical thinking. And it's one of the reasons we're very lucky to work at the primary or elementary level, is because that's the core focus of our work, making sure children's bodies and minds are healthy, that they show up in whatever the situation may be, whether it's virtual, formal, informal, or non-formal, and that we're prepared to take them from where they are to where they need to be. Those practical daily activities to move us all forward, at the same time that we continue to think about this connection. And Rosalina has made the connection. Yes, the future is not predictable, but it's also not predetermined, and we can influence it by the things we choose to do together. And whether we choose to do them together, have the same vision, do the same work, and head in the same direction. So Sakil, I see lots of comments coming through. Would you like to pick just a few to highlight?
Yeah, I think someone also raised hand a couple of times. I want to give a chance. Marianne,
okay,
I think
good.
her name. Marianne, are you still there? Can you speak up? You raised hand before. Marianne Castor.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning, how are you?
For me, the future is not predictable, but we need to be, or we need to remain vigilant in the way that future affects big choices. Another thing is that we have to take scenario planning in the sense that this is a tool that will help us to explore uncharted territories, whereas we will be able to foresee, at least to be ready for what's gonna happen and make ourselves equipped with with um, or make ourselves equipped so that we will be able to weather uncertainties that will happen in the future. Just like what the others says about individual choices. It helps us, or it will enable us to help our students in the manner that we ourselves are equipped to weather such uncertainties. That's all. Thank you po.
Thank you so
Well,
much, Amy. Go
yeah,
ahead.
Marianne gets at this issue of skills linked with flexibility within a certain structure in which we have to work toward a same goal. So again, she marries together the large concepts and ideals of long range goal setting and vision with the practical kinds of things. And I think for me, this is parallel to how we need to work with children. You know, for many years, we have discussed in education that it's almost impossible to provide students with all the facts and the content needed to know everything. And content expands so much every day that it's not possible for us to do that. But if we can give them the skills, and if we can develop the skills ourselves to manage information, content, scenarios, unpredictable situations that come in the future, we can behave in a way that's informed, that's reflective, and that's responsive. And that's the clear goal of futures thinking and planning for futures learning. So Sakil, unless we have another burning topic or a burning comment or hand raised, I'd like us to kind of now move forward to look at the practical kinds of things we have to begin to think about in this futures vision development.
Yes, indeed. Thank you. I'm moving to the next slide.
And I'll turn it over to you for this, Sakil.
Right, as Amy mentioned, I'm not going to read the slide. So take a minute to see what we must understand and plan for. So we're going to talk about each of these items, but let's take a minute to really to understand what is on the slide. So really what we're hearing some background. If you can turn off your microphone. All right. So thank you, Amy, for opening the session discussion about the future thinking. But before I jump into this discussion about how we must understand and plan proactively, I think there are a couple of transitional words that I want to use. Is that the context that we are in, and that the predictability and the history all are connected with the future thinking. I think you would agree that the contextual issue relates to all of the items that many of our colleagues mentioned, about the culture, the religion, the philosophy, the civilization of every context. And but still, there is an interesting metaphor I remember from the wise people in the desert, is that even if you have a camel, when you leave the camel, you have to tie it with something so that camel doesn't leave. So and you're gonna be lost. The reason for this is that the predictability is based on the context, even though it is unpredictable what could happen, but you cannot just leave it to the fate. We have things to do to ensure that the contextual knowledge and the history and the data is used for our future thinking. And there are these areas that you see in green. These are all items that are new and kind of new thinking. Some are not so new thinking for the future thinking process for our future of education. So I want to go by one just for a few minutes, and also want to hear from all of you about this. The idea of artificial intelligence is everybody talking about it, of course, now. And but then the idea of artificial intelligence is also, we cannot forget that the data that artificial intelligence uses, this is not data from anywhere else. This is our data. This is data about you and me. This is data about the learners we have. This is data of the teacher efficacy and the teacher behavior. So it's really all the artificial intelligence is from the data that is stored, and the data is used for processing the futuristic thinking. So sometimes we might be thinking it's from the outside of our own realm, but it's not. For instructional purposes, the evolution and growth of artificial intelligence is getting more and more attractive to everybody. But also we need to see how algorithms, which is part of the big issue of artificial intelligence, before it takes over, how much of this is really our own creation. Sometimes we are now joking with each other that maybe our cell phones control our life. But then, those all algorithms are created by us. Anything I watch on cell phone, on my social media, that's what the algorithm will show me. So it's even when we say it's unpredictable, but predictability also in my own behavior. So it's really important to see the connection between these two. I also want to talk.
Well, and Sakil,
Yes.
also this goes to the choices that we make, yeah,
Right.
Because
Absolutely.
I think also, and you've talked about context, we need to be practical in the
Right.
choices that we make about our use of artificial intelligence.
Right.
I live in I'm sorry to interrupt, but a small story. I live outside of a small village on a mountain in Africa, off a goat path. It's barely even possible to drive a car to my house. But we continue to talk here about laptops, computers, AI, applications, programs for children for learning. The local schools have no power. There's no power source.
Right.
So we really have to look clearly at our context and say, just because something exists doesn't mean we throw ourselves to it fully and completely. This is about that informed contextual decision making. So I'll stop and hand it back to you. Sorry, I had to tell that little story.
No, excellent. Thank you. And I think the next one is STEM education. Now, this is also interesting because the word we used is importance and growth. It's not that something new. STEM education has been always there, from humankind's and civilizations history. As you can understand by now that I like to talk about history and our own civilizations, because it's all part of our future. And the STEM is from the invention of fire to all the mechanics and industrial revolution. Everything was STEM. And really the growth is the issue, that how do we use science, technology, and engineering and math for the future, for our education purposes and for the future of our students. The next one is computational thinking. Of course, now it's also quite interesting because the data that we used to think is too big to process could be processed very quickly. Few days ago, and maybe this is you all are very familiar with this, even though we are completely devastated by the pandemic and the COVID situation around the world, but this is also in the first time in human history we process the data in the fastest way to come up with a vaccine in 6 months. So it's really amazing to see how computational thinking helped us, and that did not happen just overnight. It was predictability, it was futuristic thinking. Maybe you and I did not think about it, but scientists were already thinking about the futuristic situation where this will be the use of the computational thinking for processing big data. So I think the importance and role is really crucial even in our education system. Sometimes Amy and I talk about this a lot, which is when we do education reform programs in many countries, and we are part of very large education reforms, national reforms and national curriculum reforms, textbook reforms, teacher development. And one thing we see that there is a big gap in the data and the implementation, because when we get the data and then we process the data, by the time we make a decision, make a policy change, and then implement it, we might have lost a couple of generations already. If it is not real time, if we take too long to proceed with the process. So just something for us in the futuristic thinking also to think about. The other issue that you see here is evolving role of the teacher in the future classroom. Now, we talk about futuristic spaces, futuristic learning spaces, but learning space is nothing except for all of the humans in the learning space. So all the children, the teachers, the administrators, it all makes the learning space. And the role gonna be evolving. Now, acceptability and adaptability and the flexibility that Amy was talking about, agility, all of this gonna be part of our evolving role. I might say, I am the principal, or I'm the teacher, I'm the science teacher, I'm the administrator, but evolving role also come with a cultural shift. Am I ready to be adaptable? Am I ready to be evolving? Just because somebody gave you a role doesn't mean that automatically I will become adaptable to the new role. Importance and process of engaging the community. I think nobody knows better than Filipinos how to engage community. I think I always admire how communities are involved and the cultural strength in Philippines. But it's also the process that how we involve. There is a lot of tension we see around the world, and it's also growing between the parents and the teachers and the schools and the learners. There are certain amount of tensions growing and the engagement process that we need to really resolve how we feel, plan for the future of our education system. And because communities, and although we joke about it all the time, that Africans say it takes a village to raise a child. Well, now every person in the village may have a different role. Am I understanding my different roles in the community to make sure that all children are learning? And especially, I emphasize the word all children are learning, that we need to really think about the idea of inclusion, diversity, equity in education. So it's not really community for certain people and rest of the people are ignored and kind of not even accounted for. Finally,
well, and Sakil,
yes, go ahead.
You've really touched on that connected piece there between teacher, environment, leadership, and community. And so it begs the big question, which is our last bullet here. Is our current system really prepared and functioning with these four elements all collaborating and taking on their particular roles and being prepared for a future? And do we know what that vision needs to look like? I'd like to throw it out to the group for either audio or chat to take a look at that last bullet now and think about evolving roles of teachers, engagement of communities, different learning environments, and leadership. Is our current system functioning properly? Is it prepared for a future? And do we have a shared vision of that future? Because, you know, we can't get to that last piece, a concrete plan of action, until those pieces are all in place. So can we throw it for comments from the group?
Yes, yes, of course. And anybody, you can raise your hand or you can respond to the chat board. Let's take a few minutes to think about this and respond.
There are a few comments on AI.
Yeah, there was two comments. One is AI with infotech and biotech will change our future and might erode human agency. We have to reinvent education to be relevant. AI with infotech and biotech will change our future and might, I think he just repeated the same thing. So absolutely, yes, there is a lot of change happening. Now, eroding human agency, that's debatable because ultimately the human agency is why the AI and infotech and biotech is created in the first place. It's for our purpose.
And eroding human agency only if we make the choice to allow that to happen.
Right. And I think that this is a big debate, of course, and there are many perspectives and opinions about this. But ultimately, sometimes I go back to a very simple example, Amy. You hear me say this many times. We collect data. We collect data about students, we collect data from teachers, we collect data from the school systems, but do everybody who gives the data see the data back? Meaning, if data is a currency, I'm supposed to see my data back because I have every right to my data that I'm giving. So it's really important to see the equity of data when we use the data for systemic changes. Anyway, I want to see any kind of reflection or thinking on the last piece. Are we ready?
Well, and yeah, while you're looking at that, I'll kind of reframe that question again. So if we need to prepare for changes in context, AI, STEM, new ways of thinking, if teachers, communities, leaders, and our schooling environment all need to be prepared for this, how prepared are we in our current system? Do we have a shared vision? We have to be able to be prepared, start getting prepared, and have this shared vision, because we can't take an informed, reflective plan of action without those things. So that's really the context of response now.
Yeah. Anyone want to speak?
Sakil, it's okay. You know, we might want to take people to the next slide and give them some time in small group to talk about this.
Right. All right. Yeah, I think there is few coming. Teachers' role must be redefined to become responsive to the coming changes. That's a good one. I think this is the next slide, Amy. We wanted to do a little bit of exercise. I think maybe this is the right time to do this.
Let's ask people, because the lack of response to this last question may be that we need to draw it tighter, and we might have overwhelmed people at this point. So let's think about those things on the prior screen: AI, STEM, computational thinking, teachers and their behaviors, community engagement, and leadership. And let's move to the next screen, please.
Yes.
Let's look at what makes the most sense to you right now. What are you most prepared to deal with? Because we each have our own different strengths and knowledge bases. So what makes the most sense to you right now? And what do you think is in the best shape in your context?
I think comments are coming in. I'm going to read a couple of them, Amy. I believe the teachers in the Philippines are ready. It is a matter of providing clear guideline, framework, and redefining the new roles for the classroom of the future. Next one is, of course, thank you, ma'am, Amy and Sakil. Welcome, welcome. Vanessa, I think thank you all for participating. Next one is Marie San. She is saying, we are so engrossed with technology, but we forget that we need to be firm, that learners need to be trained well so they do not become dependent on them. Technology is good if we have people who can use them well. And I just want to say something else, Amy. I think if you allow me, sometimes I think we are also confusing in the modern era the difference between information and knowledge. I think sometimes we are confusing these two things. You know, if you really looking for information, you can just search Google, you know, and whether it's good information, bad information, or no information, it's all available in Google. You may not need anything else. But actually the information, if it is not useful, then it's not knowledge. And really, I think there is no shortage of information at the moment, but actually there is a huge shortage of knowledge, you know, in our civilization. And we are thinking that maybe technology itself is the knowledge, but technology maybe certain time is knowledge, but certain time it's also the process to help us with the knowledge. So I just wanted to reiterate that as we think about as you think about your own most greatest knowledge for, you know, for your own context and a sense of what the future might look like. I just want you to think about this. There are a couple
Good.
Yeah, go ahead.
So let me just refocus us on this. We're asking a couple of very simple questions at this point. I want you to think about your own background, your own knowledge, your own strengths and needs. When you think about all those elements on the prior screen, AI, STEM, computational thinking, the teacher's role, the community, the leadership, in which of these areas are you personally seeing a strength in your own skills, work, and knowledge? And in which areas are you personally feeling that you still have learning needs? We want to know from each of you individually where you are with these things at this point.
Right. Some of the responses are coming and I'm going to read them. The educational system in the Philippines is diverse. It largely depends on the geographical environment and the people themselves. Generally, the system is ready. The next one is, there are already existing global and international platforms in education to discuss evidences available and contextualization of options. It's a process and we may not be totally prepared. We just need to start the journey and respond properly based on evidences and availability. Leadership is responsive to changes and have a strong partnership to educate and capacitate teachers. Agree with you, Sakil. Thank you. I believe our DAPED is doing its best to plan and prepare for the future of education. We in EdTech has this program, Classroom of the Future, where we capacitate our teachers and school admin in visioning and developing resource materials that can be used through their mobile phones, online, offline, through infrastructure. This plays an important factor. Our teachers are flexible where they can adapt, create, and can contextualize their resources. The other one comes from Tanwan City. Today, teachers are still on the process of adapting new ways of teaching, particularly with the use of technology. One reason here is the lack of IT materials. The need of community support is still to be tapped. And the following. Okay, great. That's all for now. Amy, and there are two hands raised. Feliza,
okay, let's take those comments.
All right. Feliza Paz Carwal. I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing your name properly.
Yeah, good morning. It is correct, sir. Feliza Paz Carwal.
Right.
So
No
what I
problem.
have in mind in a workplace where you think of the future is that the first thing in mind is we should know our people in the workplace before we can finally give our vision and objectives to it. We need to know the strengths and the weaknesses of our people, because These are the two things that we need for our people to come up and bring out the best in them. They are weak in other side, however, they do have strength on the other side, in which we can dwell it together in order for us to have that shared vision and in order for us to have that future that we want to have in our workplace. It also depends on how we look at our people at the workplace, for them to be encouraged and be involved so that we'll be able to achieve the goal, our goal as one. Thank you and God bless.
Thank you.
I think you're absolutely correct. You know, it's one of the things when we have a lot of challenges or when we have big responsibilities, and everybody on this work group has big responsibilities. It's very difficult sometimes to acknowledge our own weaknesses, but I'm going to give you a practical example. I have absolutely no strength in the area of community engagement in schools. It's just not my area. It isn't the area where I've had the most experience. And it isn't the area where I have developed a lot of expertise, but Sakil does. And I rely on him a lot to bring that expertise to a part of our collaboration. My strength areas are in the evolving role of teachers and in school leadership. I also don't have any strengths in AI and computational thinking. I'm a literacy person and a child advocacy person. So, and I can acknowledge that, because having a need and having a weakness doesn't mean I'm not of value. And I think you've made that point very clearly. We've got to know ourselves, know thyself, and we have to know one another, and we have to be comfortable to say, I bring this while you bring that, and together we make something happen, which is why we wanted to pause here and ask you to tell us very directly, be brave. What are your areas of strength and your areas of need? Sakil, back to you.
Thank you so much. I think there are a couple more coming, but there is also some hands. I want to give a space. First one to Cristito Eco, and then Maria Corazon. First is Cristito.
Yeah, yes, sir. Good morning once again.
Yes.
The areas where I considered DepEd or personally myself is on engaging communities in schooling. No? But the concern I have, or DepEd as in general, or school leaders, is about the rules of computational thinking in our educational system. We have vast of data in the Department of Education coming from schools, division offices, regional offices, but the data available are not processed very well and are not actually used maximally in using it as the basis for decision making. So that's the things I would like to share to you relative to the strengths and some opportunities for learning. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent. Thank
Well,
you.
and this is a common problem worldwide, and it's been a common problem in my entire 35 years of working in education. I worked in a national assessment system in the United States for a while, working across multiple states, and we gathered all the data you could possibly want, and it wasn't used. And when it came back out to the community, it was so long to deal with, and people didn't know how to handle their own data. And in fact, we found that schools, when they got their own data back, they submitted data, and when they got it back, they were surprised by the data. They were surprised by what the data said. Data should never be a surprise. It's a continuous flow of information. Before data leaves schools, it should be understood at the school level what that data means, so that however long it takes for it to come back, people are able to be responsive immediately. That's that informed reflection and flexibility of response.
Excellent. I think there is one more I'm going to take from the microphone. One is Samuel Sullivan.
So mas na-intensify lang po nung dumating.
Good morning. Thank you very much. So I was reflecting on what to share as response to these two questions here. But let me share that of course data are so very important, whether quantitative or qualitative. And in the recently launched Basic Education Development Plan, is a voluminous document. And I believe that the DepEd was able to generate very good reflections based on the basic education sector analysis. So the first, the several pages in the document, in the Basic Education Development Plan, shows the enormity of the data that really have to be processed. But thanks to people who are good at appreciating this data, analyzing this data, because eventually they provided input in the finalization of the Basic Education Development Plan 2030. Perhaps one thing, okay, that's now considering number two. One thing that we may consider, of course, would be the disaggregation of data as to the regional level. In the context of the Philippines, we have the regions, 17 regions of them. We have 17 regions, BARM included. And then there are a good number of schools division offices, something like that. Okay, so these things in the that are already in the BEDP can already help us appreciate what's going to happen for the next 8 years, and probably part to be included, okay, in the discussions for example in this new administration would be to look at the regional situations and the municipal and provincial situations. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for giving that update. There is one more, Besi Agamata.
Hi, hello, good morning, everybody. Okay,
good morning.
So sorry for coming in late because I'm in the airport in Davao now, but nonetheless, I'm using my phone. So based on the discussion, I would commend that there is already a big innovation in relation to the learning resources, because if you're going to be looking at the future directions, we also have to consider materials which are very much needed, especially in supplementing the teaching and learning process. Another thing that I have to consider is that the readiness of the people, especially who will be involved in the capacity building, in doing the preparatory work. And then another problem that I encounter actually is the multitasking of the staff. I think if, let's say, we would like to have some sort of redirection and refocusing, we really have to capacitate the individuals, and then at the same time, consider really the tasks, specifically what tasks to perform to be able to deliver the much needed outcomes for this purpose. Thank you.
Well, and I think Sakil, that's a really good comment to take us into small group, because that's where this particular 6-session series is heading. And then into phase 3 and phase 4 is to begin to share this thinking, work on co-development and co-construction of big ideas, and then make practical plans that will get integrated into your long-range planning. To be able to make sure everybody understands what they need to understand, they have the resources that they need, and that they're able to work in a responsive and flexible way. Because as we move forward, you know, every teacher knows that every day in the classroom is unpredictable. So for those teachers who are in our group here, we know the unpredictability. We know that balance between having to accomplish certain things every day or every week or every month based on curriculum, having to use certain resources that are required or only those that are available, but then to be able to be flexible every every minute of every day in our response. And so I would say that I think everyone here has an innate understanding and ability to do this. The idea is how to bring us all together to share this process and count on one another and use each other as a support system to move forward. So Sakil, can we go into, I'm watching our time. Can we go into small group now on the next slide?
Yeah, I'm gonna need Elizabeth's help. So Elizabeth, are you there?
I will help you, Sakil.
All right, so go ahead. I'm gonna go. So this is the next slide is the vision slide, vision of future learning, Amy.
Sakil, I think we've really focused on that a lot, and we're going to again. So let's keep moving forward to the next slide, please.
Yeah, it's reflecting and sharing.
Yeah, again, I think we've done that. So can we continue forward?
Yeah,
there we go. That's what I'm
right.
looking for. Yep.
So if you can make 5 groups, Suman, and then the groups are really about these 5 topics, 5 small groups. The AI, STEM, and computational thinking in one group, evolving role of teachers, building a new environment, you know, and really you can I think Amy, what do you think? People can choose their own?
Yeah. What I'd like to do is people take a look at the screen. We are going to ask you to get briefly, you see 15 minutes there, and we may even make it 10 because the discussion has been so deep, into 5 small groups. I want you to just make a personal choice. Which group do you want to join? You'll see maximum group size of 8, but that's okay because I think we have more people than expected. It can go larger than 8. But I want you to get into a group. You can decide, oh, I'm going to join this group because it's my area of strength, or I'm going to join this group because it's my area of interest, or, you know, I don't know much about this, so I think I'm going to join this group so I can learn more. Up to you. And then you will see bullet 3, engage in discussion, just open informal discussion on your own in small group around the following questions. And then we're going to ask you to come back to the large group in about, let's say 10 minutes instead of 15, choosing someone who's just going to informally share. What did you talk about? So one representative from AI, STEM, and Comp, one representative from teachers, one from environment, one from community, and one from leadership. So small group time, just to talk and discuss, open your mics, talk with each other, and then we will come back together and share what was discussed.
I think, Amy, what happened here is that, Suman, I see the breakouts. The breakouts are by...
Give it a minute,
Okay.
and it will ask them to pick a room, whatever they want to pick, and they can go to the room of their choice.
No, what I mean is that I see the room names based on the regions, but no, I don't see.
No, you'll see it. Just give it a minute.
Okay, all right. So everybody, please wait. The room names are coming. Updated room names are coming in a second.
And as you can see, Suman is our tech strength guy.
Yeah. Now. Oh, that's a new job now. Can you see it, all of you?
Yeah, so you see the 5 groups, and you are welcome to join any of the groups. But if you see 8 people already joined, you might want to also think about joining other teams. But please go ahead. And I think, Suman, you can make the groups come back in 10 minutes.
And Sakil, when groups come back and we finish discussing, let's give people a 5-minute break before section 2 also.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. It's been a while.
Did you all, yep, I see people going to the room, I think.
Yeah,
wonderful.
They are all going.
And everyone is on their own in small group to discuss on their own, because we're going to be listening when they come back.
I'm sorry, but I'm just seeing your slide. I don't see any group. Where do I? Where do
A
I
a
go?
new window should have popped up on your screen.
Breakout rooms? No.
Yes, yes.
Shall I go to the breakout rooms?
Yes, please.
Okay.
And you will see different options.
Okay.
And you can join any of the groups that you like. And the breakout rooms will automatically shut down after 10 minutes and it will bring you back to the plenary.
So Amy, I did not assign you to any room, because I know you can just jump around and go and check out the rooms, how are they doing. Amy, can you hear me? So
Suman, Amy is on break. I'm also on break.
okay, we have 9 on the leadership, 11 in engaging community, 8 in new environment.
That's all
role
right.
of teacher, 11. Yeah, that's good. Pretty evenly defined, pretty evenly
That's
distributed.
excellent.
Okay.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll be back in a few minutes.
Okay, we have 7 minutes left. Okay.
All right. And after they come back, you can give a 5-minute break to everybody.
Yeah.
Then we will do the reconvene.
Okay, looks like our group is back. Sakil, back to you. Amy, back to you.
Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed your breakout session and get a chance to talk to your colleagues from different part of the country, different regions. All brings us together with different topics. So I'm going to start with, requesting each group representative to share what you have discussed in the small group. And of course, remembering three things, not to make it too long, but just to focus on three main issues that we want to hear from you about is why is this topic area of importance when you're considering how to actively plan for responsive education into a new future, current status in your school, how ready they are, and what are the most important things we can do to move this area forward. So maybe I will start with the artificial intelligence STEM and technology group. Can anyone from that group raise hand and I can give the mic? Who is gonna be the reporter from the artificial intelligence group? It gonna be Mary San Diego. Excellent. Go ahead, please.
First off, most of us in the group actually have joined in that because most of us actually have fear or reservation about the thing, and there are some who work on this really and very much interested in sharing a lot of ideas. But in the first question, what topic of importance? What we have looked into is that the idea that the learners have to be prepared, well, all the basics before they can be able to go through the technology. Was this they have to be able to go and utilize the technology well. And then what we have also mentioned is that we need to be able to go and plan and use well, of course, we have pointed out that the use of the data and the documentation of all of these data need to be done well so that we could be able to make sense of all the data that we have and apply all of these information that we get so that we can improve well. We also have a question. Some of us actually have raised the idea, what's happening to our teachers? How are the teachers coping with all the changes that are happening inside the classroom? Because most of the changes that are happening are so fast. And sometimes when we present, for example, certain skills, or maybe we teach them certain skills, sometimes once they have learned about this and then they have mastered it, it's no longer of use to most. So we tend to have a problem concerning that. But of course, we know that our department is doing a lot of things, especially one was this, we are doing our best to be able to go and align the curriculum to most of the trends that are actually coming out, looking into the learning resources and how do we improve them. So all in all, in the group, I think we are on the right track. The department is on the right track because we're doing our best to be able to go and do a lot of capacity building for our teachers. The only thing is we need to be able to go and move forward from here because just like what I mentioned earlier, sometimes when we do capacity building, then once they have mastered it, there are already new technologies coming in that they need to be able to go and adapt to that. Maybe it's a way of thinking, not just capacity building. And then the infrastructure is also being placed, of course. And then, of course, we are doing a lot of updating for our teachers and also for our school leaders concerning all of this. Hopefully, we could be able to go and match our neighbors so that we could be able to move forward from here. That's all.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you so much for that, Mari San Diego. I want to go to the next team, evolving role of teachers. Who want to speak from that team? Anyone? You can raise your hand.
Yes, good morning. I am Rose Villanesa from that team, evolving the roles of the teachers. We are 11 in the group, and so we gave ourselves 1 minute to talk about what we thought about the evolving roles of the teachers. And the following are the ones that came out: flexible, learning, transformative side, and of course to address the demand for 21st century skills that should be acquired by our learners. We thought of a creative thinker teachers, a risk taker, innovator, and of course, a shift primarily the source of knowledge as a teacher to be a facilitator of learning. And to do, and of course, most of all, our learners should be, our teachers should be learner-centered and model and an inspiration to the learners. And with the coming in of technology, we envision, or we look into a teacher that is technology savvy, but with caution in utilizing the technology to ensure that, you know, the technology is being used in a way that it should be used, and most of all, and to be able to do all of this and to be able to achieve all of this, there should be a continuous professional development and a paradigm shift in the way our teachers think. Okay, so it's really a habits of the mind and a thinking teachers for your future planning and actions. Thank you. And I would like to thank the 11 members of this group.
Rose, thank you so much. That's wonderful summary of your teamwork. Thank you so much. So next team, I'd like to request building a new environment. The team, can somebody represent? This is Amaka. Amaka, go ahead.
So I really appreciated this because, as you know, I'm not a teacher. I was the scribe for the group. And I want to thank everybody in that group because they made the discussion was so simply broken down that I got it. And I was able to be the scribe. So thank you to everyone in the group. And the discussions were more around, regardless of what happens in the environment and the emergencies that come up, it's inevitable that sessions might be on and off, but they're still very critical, very basic learnings that students need to still get. And whatever new environments are being built, there needs to be some thinking put around that. And teachers and the building in terms of systems have to be prepared for these eventualities. Pandemics don't give notices before they come along, but with planning, quality education can still be delivered. And there were discussions around delivering reading programs to develop them and ensure that the kids still get the proper education through the proper channels, and the conduciveness as well of the environment. When it's being envisioned, it has to be envisioned as a safe, successful, and respectful one as well, so that learning outcomes are not compromised and the children can focus without fear on their studies and just be able to get through the curriculum. And no matter whether the platform is virtual or physical, there needs to be things like policies, et cetera, that are put in place to ensure that the kids feel safe and supported in their learning. That's it from us.
Thank you so much, Amaka. Well described, well described. Really appreciate summarizing that. Next one is engaging community. Who would like to speak on behalf of engaging community? Anyone?
Actually, we had difficulty. Hello.
Yeah, Chris Ann, go ahead.
Hello po, good morning. We actually had difficulty with our technical devices, but we were able to discuss some of the questions. I think the group would agree with me when we say that when we say responsive, it answers the question: will it address the needs of the stakeholders? Will it address the needs of the community? So, with that question, we recognize that assessing the situation of the community is very important. We have to first and foremost we need to have that baseline data. So we will be able to meet where they are. So the group also acknowledged that we do not operate in a vacuum. So we recognize the role of each stakeholders to achieve our shared goals. That is a responsive education. So we we agreed that the role of the stakeholders is that is very important. So we will be able to tap resources, we involve our stakeholders so that the goals or the shared goals that we identify will be owned by our stakeholders. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Even with all the difficulties in technology, you all were able to discuss. That's great. I would like to request the leadership team. The next item, next group is the final group. Leadership team. Anybody want to speak about their discussion? Anyone from the leadership team?
Morning.
Hello, Maria.
Yes, Katrina. Katrina. You may
Katrina,
call me
okay.
Katrina, yes.
Okay.
So I'm
Go ahead,
representing
Katrina.
our group, the leadership group, and we are 6 in leadership, but unfortunately we had difficulty with the fast talk. But we all agreed, and we are very grateful that the ones who shared are represented the central office and one from the field office. So they more or less represent what we think the leadership's role is when considering how to actively plan towards responsive education into the future. So for us, leadership play a key role in the future's thinking. We agree that the leadership opens the is the one that spearheads and opens the platform for the future's thinking, and they are the ones who set the priorities as basis for the process and conceptual framework for the strategies and actions to be taken, and ensuring funding support and partnerships are provided to ensure that while we are addressing the present concerns of our country and particularly in basic education, we are also preparing our environment for our learners so that they will be prepared for our future. And then our school head colleague in the group very much well shared her school-based management experience and leadership during the pandemic, because while we are still tiptoeing, or we are struggling and to implement the SBM and all the leaderships and the combined or the guided decentralization in the country, the pandemic really pushed the DepEd and the Philippines to really implement the school-based management during the COVID-19 pandemic. So she shared what she experienced, that they have to really consider the context of the school, and she has to lead her school and the community, the school community around the school, in ensuring that learning continuity happens in their school. So during the pandemic, they had to assess whether the external environment, or is there internet available so they can explore other blended learning modalities in consideration of the safety of the learners. And then she has to harness the partners and the LGUs, all the other resources that can be coursed through to ensure that the learners are provided with appropriate resources and appropriate assistance. The parents are provided appropriate assistance. So she has to think all about all of this, and this happens all throughout the country. So, and then we only touched on the second question on the current status of the work. She also shared the experience towards preparation for the face-to-face classes, and this is also contextual based on the alert levels and the situation in the community. So this pandemic really brought our leaders and the school leaders to a new dimension, a higher dimension of SBM. So we moving forward, we hope to learn the lessons during the pandemic to ensure that the community partnership established during the pandemic will be continued because this really represents the tenets of the school-based management that we are promoting in the country. So that's it for leadership. Thank you.
Brilliant, brilliant. Thank you so much. It's so much to think about, so much to discuss. Really
Well, and
appreciate.
Sakil,
Yes,
and
go ahead.
Sakil, I love that we ended with leadership here, because leadership discussion touched on all the other pieces as well, because that it really is what we're looking at. With good, clear leadership that knows how to support and move forward all those other pieces. That's a key factor, which is why it's great we're starting with this group here, because everyone on this training session, whether they're a teacher or a school director or a regional government employee, they all are in positions of leadership or they wouldn't be here with us. One of the, can you shift back to the prior screen?
Of course.
Okay, so to close this up, the prior screen, there you go, right there. So if you look at your 5 small groups there, we are coming to the ending of section 1 around the futures thinking and futures learning. Those 5 groups will comprise the content of your next 5 sessions. So each time we come to a new session now, one of these 5 topics will be the main topic of learning in section 1 of the session. And we'll take each one of these deeper. So what we wanted you to do today was kind of get your current thinking on the table and prime your brains for new learning that'll take place over the next 5 sessions. So we've gone a bit long on this. We went about 5 minutes long on this first section today, which is okay, because we really wanted to hear your thinking and get you engaged. We're going to take a 5-minute break. It normally would be 10, but I'm going to try to keep us on time this morning. So I'm going to put in a 5-minute break now. So if everyone can keep your devices online and just step away and take a break for a few minutes, stretch or get coffee or whatever you need to do. And we'll come back in 5 minutes. Let's try to be back on time. Thank you. Two. You'll recall we talked about yesterday the learning blocks, and again this morning. First learning block, new content. Second learning block, our group planning, our regional group planning to create shared futures, visions, and scenarios. So Sakil, if you can move us to the next slide.
Yes.
Okay, so this is our futures planning process. We will go through every step of this process over the 6 sessions. So take a brief look, starting from the left and moving up to the right. From defining our group persona, our focal concern and the goal of this work, to identifying who the stakeholders are who we will need to engage in this shared vision, creating a systems map, mapping out the sections of our system so that no piece of the system gets left out of our work and our thinking, identifying the driving forces that are going to be moving us into the future, and then beginning to kind of spread out to the potential futures we could see. This is that idea of predicting the unpredictable, what might be coming our way, and then pulling it all together in our last session to create 4 potential scenarios. We will do this based on the process that was completed for the 3 prototypes already finished, and we will be going back to those 3 prototypes to give you real practical examples from work in the Philippines that's already been done. So today we're going to be starting with our first 2 steps because they are our briefest and shortest first steps. The identification of group personas, focal concerns, and goals. Can you slide us to the next screen, Sakil?
Yes.
Okay, so take a look at persona, please. Now, this is not your individual persona. This is your group persona. It's a little bit different. So who are you and what do you do? Because who you are affects what you plan to do and how you plan to do it. We can only work within our context. We draw on our strengths. We look to each other to support those things that are not strengths. And we have to be able to analyze our context and our situation. So in identifying your group persona, in your small group breakout, the first thing you will do is look at what's your unit of analysis. And it may be that you have multiple units of analysis. When you analyze your work and your situation in order to plan and prepare, create a vision, are you working at the global level or national? Is it a particular geographical area? Are you one organization? Do you look from an individual level? This is up to you to kind of carve out and think about, knowing that your units of analysis may be at multiple levels. And then the second part of developing your group persona, what's your perspective? Are you working in the public sector, in the private sector? Is your focus and concern on people, systems, policy? What's your mission? And why are you engaged in this work? Is it to help your learners become more prepared to navigate the fourth industrial revolution? We would say that it is. But so the first thing you'll do in small group is you will identify your group persona. Next slide, Sakil.
Yes.
So after you've identified your group persona, you need to focus on what's your focal concern. Take a look at the screen, please. Your focal concern is the thing that you're most concerned about. Now, we have practical daily concerns and we have our own individual concerns, but we also will have global concerns, things that concern all of us. So, I might be primarily concerned with certain issues in my classroom as a classroom teacher. My school leadership might be concerned with other issues, but we need to look for today those common kinds of focal concerns that are really at the core of why we all do the work that we do, because the focal concern is going to keep us anchored in what is relevant and most important. It also keeps us kind of contained within a boundary. We don't make plans to focus on things that are not our focal concern. So it's really about moving toward a core goal and keeping our work tied together and really headed in the right direction. And it's also reality focused. We did a lot of conceptual discussion in section 1, and now we're trying to get down to the practical, reality focused focal concern. It has to be something that you can do something about. So we can't concern ourselves with the nature of global pandemics. We do have to concern ourselves with how we respond to the presence of the pandemic in our local context. So in your small group, your second task will be to develop a draft focal concern. Next slide, Sakil.
Yes.
And then we need to set a goal. So what's going to be the goal of your group? Now, we know that one core goal for this work is to create these 4 scenarios, but that's a task. That should not be viewed as a goal. So what would be the goal of your group? One sentence that defines why you're coming together to do this, what it is you're trying to accomplish by participating in this work. Make sure that your goal stays within the boundaries of who you are and what you're concerned with. So who are you? This is your persona as a group. What you're concerned with, this is your focal concern. And then your goal. These 3 pieces are tied together and each one builds off the one before. So we begin with persona, who are we? And then concern, what are we worried about and what do we need to focus on? And then, so what should our goal be? So it's a logical progression from who to what our concern is to what our goal needs to be. Next slide, Sakil.
Yes, regional small group.
Yeah, okay. So we're getting ready to go into the regional small groups. And I'm going to give you 15 minutes in those groups today. Please do not start to panic about an assignment or a task that's due. We're going to be using the phrase draft, draft, draft. Okay. And we know it's your first time focused on this. For many of you, you've not seen this process before. We are going to be working by region. So there should be 10 small groups that work together to define persona. And you can see there the guiding questions. So everything from the prior screen is here. Defining your focal concern. You can see the bullets there, so you don't need to look back at the prior screen. And then goal setting. Okay, so first part of that 15-minute regional small group task is define your persona, then define your focal concern and set your goal. These are drafts only. You will have time offline after the session to kind of polish those up and share them via email or any kind of offline discussion you want to have. When we come back, we will again ask for a representative from groups to be sharing what's been done in the group briefly, and also to bring any questions that you may have, because your questions will guide us as we move into the future. Are there any questions about the process before we break out?
Amy, I do have a question. I think Suman can confirm to us, but I think the way I have seen the small regional groups are not really regional. Some are regional groups, but also departmental groups. So I want to confirm with Suman how this small group gonna be divided. Suman, are you there? Suman, can you hear us?
Yes, I'm here. So how it is divided is I'm going to, I want everyone to look at the chat box, and there is a message for everyone. Give it a second, it's coming. And yes, now it's in there. Can you confirm, Sakil, if you got it?
Yeah, I see see it.
So there are 5 groups, and there will be 5 groups. One is called DEPED NCR. So that includes DEPED NCR, Amparo Elementary School, Mebunga Elementary School, etc. I'm not going to read it, so you can look at it. DEPED Region 4A, DEPED Region 2,
all right.
DEPED
So I
Central
think,
Office and DEPED Regional Offices.
Yeah,
So
I think
you will be there. I'm going to open the room, and please pick the appropriate group and join in that group. Okay.
yeah, as per your direction on the chat board, there is numeric numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's how people should join the teams. If you see your elementary school, the department, you join that group.
So if
and in each future session, people will be joining these same groups. We have to work in same group for going forward.
All right, and Suman, there is a BLR is missing, so please add BLR in group.
Yeah, please
4.
join the group 4. Okay.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank
We'll take a note. Thank you.
So rooms are all open, and how much time we're going to give them?
15 minutes.
We're gonna give 15 minutes, and then we'll be coming back. We do again want a representative to share draft thinking and draft work.
Yeah, please go ahead and join your group. Yeah, I see people are moving to their room. Yes.
Suman, all of the baby
with colleagues. So I'm going to be starting with each group to kind of define and describe what you have discussed in a summarized fashion. So I will start with DEPED NCR staff. Anybody who is speaking on behalf of the NCR staff?
Good morning.
Morning, who is this?
Yes, yes, sir.
Sir Malik. I'm Miss Lisa A. Alvarez, representing DepEd NCR.
Lisa, can you come closer to your microphone?
Yes, am I being heard?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, good morning, everyone. So for DepEd NCR, we are not yet done with the whole thing, but we have our statement that goes like this. DepEd NCR would like to provide the best quality education through numeracy and literacy, utilizing human, material, and technology resources through the responsive learning modality and learning spaces that suit our learners' needs, and upskill the teachers with relevant teachers' knowledge, supported by the internal and external holders. Our focal concern is raising the bar of literacy and numeracy in the region. When we say literacy, we also involve environmental literacy, scientific literacy, digital literacy, together with numeracy. So we would like to raise the bar of performance of our learners in this aspect.
Very nice. And you noted that you had not finished. We don't expect anyone to be finished with the time that we've had today. Okay, so don't worry about that. That's a great start. Sakil, next group.
Yes,
sorry, go ahead.
So for our persona, we look at our work at the regional level.
All right. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lisa. And then I'm going to DepEd Region 4A.
Hi there, Butch here from DepEd Tanawan, and also representing our region, Region 4A. So basically, you said it well, 15 minutes is not going to cut it. So we really need a lot of time to really get everybody's idea. But for now, here's what we came up. In terms of persona, we identified ourselves as an organization contributing in a geographical context. So even though we work as a division, we also contribute to the programs of the region. So basically, that's how we identified ourselves. And concerned with public education. So for that matter, it's really a big responsibility. So our goal, as identified by the group, is to promote the rights of children at all times. So regardless of what the scenario is, we have to promote all the children's rights. And that includes quality basic education for all learners. And also being a learner-centered organization, it is our duty to look into the best interests of all learners and basically improve on the pupils' performance, which is our goal. And we came up with certain questions in terms of really coming up with this goal. Learner-centered being identified as our focal concern. We really need to focus on contributing to the nation in terms of really building skills for our learners, so that we can shape them for whatever the future might be. And the questions that we always ask ourselves is basically in terms of setting our goals, the questions that we set for ourselves is that we always have to ask the what is and the what ifs, so that we can ground ourselves with our current situation and then prepare for the future in terms of asking the what if. So we also have to prepare and forecast what might come in the future. What support we need in terms of achieving our goals is something that we also have to ask. And if we do achieve something, how can we sustain it is the next question coming from the group. So there are a lot of ideas coming from the group, but this is basically what we came up in terms of this preliminary activity. So that's all for us. Thank you very much.
Well, and I would say you've done an amazing job for 15 or 20 minutes to get that far. Really excellent thinking from the group. Sakil, next group.
Thank you so much. I will go with DPED Region 2. Region 2.
Yes, sir. Good morning. This is the output of our group. For our persona, since these are all draft meantime, for our persona is to educate learners under our care. So our persona and our goal focuses on giving our best in focusing to educate learners, particularly in the literacy and numeracy scale, just like our partners from the NSERM have made mention a while back, focusing to reach the proficiency level of all learners, at least 75%, again, in terms of particularly literacy and numeracy skills. Our goal is to educate our learners under our care, giving them building blocks of knowledge and keeping in mind the best interests of our learners, reaching out on the needy in terms of literacy and numeracy. Aside from that, develop the holistic personality of our learners to be ready in terms of different dilemmas they have to face in the community, at home, and in their environment, and even school. So we have to develop their holistic personality and to let every learner be productive based from the competencies in particular grade level, reaching out a full and giving full access to whatever we have, whatever materials we have in the school, since we focus in developing the holistic personality of our learners. And our focal question and how we can ensure the delivery of these quality instructions, we will tackle it one by one with the group later. And we hope that with our goal and on focusing to reach the proficiency level in terms of literacy and numeracy, we will plan more with our group and to give better solutions on every problems that we met along the way with these different discussions. That's all, and thank you.
Great, wonderful, thank you. Sakil, next group.
Next group is DPED Central Office.
Hello.
Yes,
can you hear me? Okay. For us in the central office, our basic persona is we're supposed to be on a national level, but we are concerned with both the public and the private sector, since and public schools, because we are supposed to be providing policies, setting the standards, and we should be able to go and ensure access to quality education and provide measures in different measures and mechanisms for our friends in the region and the division, and also, of course, in the school. Our mission, basically, we are governed by the mission of the Department of Education, which is to protect and promote the right of every Filipino to quality, equitable, culture-based, and complete basic education. It's actually very long. I just gave a certain part of it, but it's really, that's what we're working on. And why are we embarking on this particular scenario, where we would like, of course, people to be adaptable and flexible in our department, because we would like to empower them so that they won't be caged by whatever it is that we are presenting. We need to be able to set standards and, of course, policies that could make them think and make them work within their context. Next, our focal concern. Okay. We acknowledge the fact that we are all support offices, and the heart of the central office is basically the curriculum itself, how it is supposed to be delivered to the classroom. So therefore, we try to go think about the idea that the CO offices, different offices in the COs have different mandates. We have specific mandates, but we have to be able to go and come together so that we can, we are going to be on the same page, and we can help our regional and SDO friends do their own mandates too. it's just like one of our members actually said something like, we have to be able to go think globally and act, of course, locally. We have to provide them the means to be able to do all of those things as we work here. And there is another was this member of our team who actually pointed out how important it is for us in the central office to utilize the data and manage them and and use this data so that we could be able to go and provide the standards and, of course, the policies that would work best with our people on the ground, because we have to be able to give them the means to be able to go and work on their own, because within their own context. And that's the work of the central office. I'm sorry we weren't able to go and finish up the things that are found below after defining the focal concern. But these are basically the things that we have discussed in the central office. Thank you.
It's quite okay. You'll have time offline after this session to finish up what you've been working on. Don't worry about that. Sakil, I think we're to our last group. Yes?
Yes, final regional offices.
Hello, good morning once again.
Good morning.
We're only two of our group, and I'll be presenting to you our draft output. As to the first requirement on the persona, we are DepEd Regional Office, which is a government entity that provides social services, particularly basic education for both formal and non-formal education. Our clients are age 5-year-old to 18 or older. We include also IPs and other learners or Filipino learners. Our mission is to ensure access to and promote equity and continuously improve the quality of basic education in the region and schools division offices. By leading in the policy formulation and direction setting. Second, we are also asked to ensure quality in the delivery of basic services by developing regional work systems and procedures and setting regional standards aligned with the national educational policies. And we also ensure active collaboration of all regional stakeholders of education in the delivery of basic education services, thereby establishing partnership and networking with them towards achieving the goals of the Department of Education. Last, ensure effective and efficient management of financial, human, and physical resources of the region by providing the schools division offices the necessary technical assistance, monitoring, and quality assurance. On our focal concern of the regional office is to improve quality basic education, particularly on the improvement of quality in the delivery of basic education instructions. And our goals are as follows: improvement of English, science, and math learners' competencies, and strengthening teachers' capacity on the use of appropriate pedagogy with IT integration. And on the question on question about what we have done, we have only one question: how are we going to assess the effectiveness and efficiency of the programs and projects we are implementing? Because we deem it necessary to really measure and determine the efficiency and the effectiveness of the programs and projects we are implementing in the Department of Education. For all you know, we have plenty of programs and projects, but we need really to assess if these projects are effective and efficient to address or respond to a certain challenge or a certain problem. The host intent of this program and project is to resolve or to eradicate existing problems in various governance levels. So that's the output of our team. Thank you very much for your indulgence.
Thank you very much. I love it that we've kind of closed out with this idea of informed reflection. And when you talk about assessing programs, that's really what that makes me think of, is how do we look at what we know, what we've learned, and reflect on where to go next. Sakil, can you move us to the next screen, please?
Yeah, this is the reflecting chair.
Yeah, go on to the following, please.
And the follow-up, yes.
The final screen, thank you. Okay, so I want to thank you for your good work in small group. We had a few hiccups getting started. Can you go? There you go, thank you. But I think you did a great job coming up with your draft work. And so I want you to take a look at this screen, please. So I want you just to think about, as you move forward through the day, what's something new you learned today that you can take away and kind of use in your work, and your questions and concerns. We'd like you to share these responses on the WhatsApp group anytime during the next 48 hours before we meet again. And as we discussed in the first session, you will have homework. Today, there is no homework for section 1. It was an overview of futures thinking and learning. But in terms of section 2, you all mentioned not having quite enough time to be completely finished. And so offline, through whatever process your group thinks is most appropriate for you, we'd like you to refine your persona, focal concern, and goal. And then when we come back on Thursday morning, that will be the first thing that we do in the Thursday session, is to reflect back on the new learning from today, questions or concerns, and the refined focal concern, persona, and goal. Really, I want your particular emphasis there to be on your focal concern and goal, because those are the things that are going to be driving you forward in terms of your futures prototype scenario visioning. So make sure you stay connected. You can connect through the LinkedIn group, or again on the WhatsApp group. We'd like to hear back from you on any questions that you have or concerns. And for me, I just want to say thank you. I love working with groups of people who have a lot to talk about and who have real commitment to the work, and that's very clear with this group. And I'd like to throw it to Sakil and then Maricel to make any final comments before we hand over to Suman for the end today.
No, I really don't have any comment. I am so inspired. And, I was saying to Amy that after quite a while, today I feel very excited with all the participation, all the wisdom and the thinking for the future thinking. So this is going to be a great journey together, and looking forward to the upcoming sessions with all of you. To Maricel.
Yes, same, Sakil. Actually, I don't have any comments, except that, I'm really inspired also with your engagement. You were engaging and interactive in this session, and I hope that we maintain that motivation. So thank you so much. I've learned a lot today also, hearing from your insights and your answers in the main room, and also in the breakout sessions, when I joined the breakout sessions and just listen to your answers, which is a great start on this course.
And so to Suman to take us out today, please.
Thank you, everyone. And I want everyone to turn the camera on for a few minutes when I talk, and then we'll take a group picture. So just a few things that I know we had a little hiccups with the group. We'll get better in the next session. Maybe we'll communicate everyone which group they belong to, so that when you come, you go to the exactly same room. We'll save those 2-3 minutes. And I think after today's session, everyone feels comfortable. Being a son of a school teacher and a college professor, I know how much, what it means to be a teacher and how their lives are. Okay. So I have lots of respect for teachers and anyone who works in education sector. Plus my daughter is in education sector as well. So I'm just going to share a few things. I've shared lots of links and emails, and I'm just going to share a few things with you guys. So after this session, you're going to get in the WhatsApp group as well as an email a session evaluation. You're going to get session evaluation every day after the session. After every session, it maximum is going to take 2 minutes of your time. What you see, this is the only one where you're going to write something. Rest is all multiple choice questions. So it's going to take, I tested it in less than 2 minutes. I finished it. Okay. So this is what everyone gets it. And then I'm going to show you one more thing, a resource. I would really like, so resources, we can have any resource. If you don't use it, then it has no use of it. So all of you should have access to our Google Drive to this folder. And what this folder has is there are 2 folders. Presentations will have all the presentations. As soon as they finish, we'll upload it here. So it is all your material, and that will be accessible to all of you. You can download, you can use it. And then I have put together a reference material. So reference material will have 2 things. Right now you see a book. There's a book folder. So every day after every session, we're going to put a book. And we're going to have another folder called articles, and number of articles that you can use that we have access to here. Sometimes you may have access or may not have access to those relevant articles. We will upload those articles here as well. So there'll be lots of resources by the time you finish the entire sessions that you can utilize. So I'm giving you one homework for right now, that is a session evaluation plus homework. That's my colleagues are very, very nice. They won't give you much homework, but I'm going to give you one more homework. I'm going to email you this paper. So I want you to print it locally and just make a note of yourself for each module. What was your main key learning? Maybe 1, maybe 2, maybe 3, and maybe something you can implement in a month, 6 months, or in long term in your workplace. And whatever you learned, you save it, and we will find a way how we can get it back from you. And maybe you can email, maybe I can ask my office, they can create an online form. Usually we create an online form, and we want people to upload that at end of the session in the online form. So we will come up to that solution. But for right now, keep it in your local computer and do it as you finish the sessions. I will share that in WhatsApp group as well as in email. And so by end of the day, end of the program, then you will know that, hey, I finished this training, and there were a few things I can probably work in my regular work. If not, then session will be over. Human memory is very short, and we forget and we move on. So we don't want that to happen. So we'll have an action plan that we'll share with you. And as everybody else said, any questions, we are accessible through WhatsApp and LinkedIn group, and we're going to be together. This is just the beginning of our professional relationship with all of you. Thank you. And we'll see you next one on your Thursday morning, same time. And it's Wednesday evening for us, Sakil and Amy and Amaka. And until then, adios.
Suman, before you leave, you forgot the surprise. So there is supposed to be a surprise every evening, and I know some of them are waiting. When is the surprise, or IDI just giving us no surprise tonight?
Okay,
so there is the surprise. I want to show you the book because that is coming to you. This is also 2020 brand new book from Routledge, Preparing Globally Minded Literacy Teachers, Knowledge, Practice, and Case Study. It's it's an excellent book. I have recently finished reading it. And I can show you the date is published in 2020. It's a very new book and a wonderful book for literacy teachers and teachers around the world. And this is your second gift from all of us. And it will be uploaded on your WhatsApp. Also, your Google folder is coming to you momentarily. Thank you so much. Enjoy your day. See you all Wednesday. and your
Thank you,
target
everybody.
community. Thank you.
Have a great day.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Thanks, Amy.
Bye-bye.
Take care, Amy.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
God bless everyone.
Thank you.